The restaurant was almost full when a tired single father walked through the doors with his young daughter. He looked around nervously, holding her little hand while she carried a worn pink backpack. Every table seemed occupied. Then he noticed a woman sitting alone at a corner table. She looked successful, confident, and completely lost in her own thoughts. What happened when the father quietly asked if they could share her table would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin, please subscribe to Kindness Story, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories about kindness, hope, and the little moments that can change a life. It was a cold Friday evening in Chicago. Daniel Carter had spent the entire day working 2 jobs. He drove deliveries during the day and worked a few hours at a grocery store in the evening. He was exhausted, but he had promised his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, that they would have dinner together. Daniel had been raising Emma alone since her mother passed away 3 years earlier. He never complained about it. He simply woke up every morning, worked as hard as he could, and tried to make sure Emma never felt like she was missing anything. That evening, Daniel had just enough money for 2 simple meals at a small downtown restaurant. When they entered, Emma looked around with excitement. "Dad, can we sit by the window?" Daniel smiled. "Let's see if we can find a table, sweetheart." The restaurant was crowded. Business people were having dinner, couples were laughing, and families were celebrating. Daniel looked around until he spotted one empty chair at a table where a woman was sitting alone. The woman was in her early 40s. She wore an expensive black coat and had a laptop beside her. Her name was Victoria Bennett, the CEO of one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the city. But Daniel didn't know any of that. He only saw a woman sitting alone. He walked over politely. "Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry to bother you. Would you mind if my daughter and I shared your table? There aren't any other seats available." Victoria looked up. For a moment, she seemed surprised. Then she looked at Emma, who was standing behind her father with a shy smile. "Of course," Victoria said. "Please, sit down." Daniel thanked her. "Thank you. We won't disturb you." "You're not disturbing me," Victoria replied. Emma sat beside her father. She carefully placed her backpack under the chair and opened the menu. Victoria watched them quietly. She noticed Daniel checking his wallet before ordering. She noticed him asking Emma what she wanted and then choosing the cheaper meal for himself. "Dad, you should get the burger," Emma said. Daniel smiled. "I'm not that hungry." Victoria knew immediately that he was pretending. A few minutes later, their food arrived. Emma happily began eating. Daniel watched her with a smile. Victoria couldn't stop looking at them. She had spent years surrounded by wealthy people, expensive restaurants, luxury cars, and business meetings. Yet something about this simple father and daughter touched her. Then Emma suddenly looked at Victoria. "Do you work here?" Victoria smiled. "No, sweetheart." "Why?" "Because you have a computer." Victoria laughed softly. "No. I run a company." Emma's eyes widened. "Like a boss?" "Yes," Victoria said, smiling. "Something like that." Emma nodded seriously. "My dad is a boss too." Daniel laughed. "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are," Emma insisted. "You're the boss of me." Victoria laughed for the first time that evening. Daniel smiled. For the next few minutes, they talked casually. Then Victoria noticed something that made her heart sink. Emma was wearing an old winter coat with a small tear near the sleeve. Daniel noticed Victoria looking at it. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Things have been a little difficult lately." Victoria shook her head. "You don't have to apologize." Daniel looked down. "I just want her to have a normal childhood." Victoria looked at Emma. She seems happy. Daniel smiled. That's all I want. The words stayed with Victoria. A few minutes later, Daniel received a phone call. He answered quietly. Hello? His expression changed. Yes, I understand. He listened. I'll try to make the payment next week. He ended the call and placed his phone on the table. Victoria didn't ask what happened. But she could see the worry in his eyes. When the bill arrived, Daniel counted his money carefully. He had just enough. He placed the cash on the table. Victoria watched him. Then she stood up. I need to take a phone call, she said. She walked to the front counter and quietly paid the entire bill. When she returned, Daniel was confused. Your bill has already been paid, she said. Daniel looked shocked. No, I can't accept that. Victoria smiled. You don't have to. But why? She looked at Emma. Because sometimes people need a little help. Daniel shook his head. I appreciate it, but I don't want charity. Victoria looked directly into his eyes. Then don't call it charity. Call it kindness. Daniel became silent. Victoria continued. Someone was kind to me when I needed it years ago. I never forgot how that felt. Maybe tonight, I'm just passing it forward. Daniel finally nodded. Thank you. Victoria smiled. You're welcome. They said goodbye and left the restaurant. Victoria thought that was the end of the story. But it wasn't. The following Monday, Victoria walked into her company's main office and saw a man waiting near the reception desk. It was Daniel. He looked nervous. Victoria recognized him immediately. Daniel? He smiled. I hope I'm not bothering you. What are you doing here? Daniel held out a small envelope. I wanted to return the money. Victoria opened it. Inside was the exact amount she had paid at the restaurant. I can't take this, she said. Daniel smiled. I know. But I wanted to show you something. He pulled out a child's drawing. It was a picture of a little girl standing beside her father. Above them was a large yellow sun. At the bottom, Emma had written, Thank you for being kind to my dad. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Daniel said, she wanted you to have it. Victoria carefully held the drawing. She realized something that day. Her money had paid for dinner. But kindness had given her something money could never buy. It had reminded her why success mattered in the first place. Victoria offered Daniel a job at her company. Not because she felt sorry for him, but because she had discovered that he was hardworking, honest, and determined. Daniel accepted. Months later, his life began to change. He still worked hard, but he no longer had to worry about choosing between rent and groceries. Emma had a warm new coat and a bigger backpack. But Daniel never forgot that night. And neither did Victoria. Years later, when Victoria was asked during an interview about the most important moment of her career, she didn't talk about winning awards or building a successful company. She talked about a tired father who had once asked to share her table. She said, that night taught me something. Sometimes we think we are helping someone else, but kindness changes us too. Daniel and Emma remained part of Victoria's life. And whenever Victoria saw someone sitting alone, struggling, or simply needing a little help, she remembered that restaurant table. Because kindness doesn't always require money. Sometimes it is a seat at a table. Sometimes it is listening. Sometimes it is paying for a meal. Sometimes it is simply telling someone, you're not alone. And you never know how far one small act of kindness can travel. It may change someone's evening. It may change someone's life. And sometimes, without you even realizing it, it may change your own. So the next time you see someone who looks like they are struggling, don't look away. If you can help, help. If you can listen, listen. If you can share a little kindness, share it. Because the world doesn't need more people asking what they can get. It needs more people asking what they can give. And somewhere, perhaps at a crowded table, one small act of kindness may be waiting to become someone's unforgettable moment.